Okay, awesome. Well, I'm Evan. My talk is called Hide Your Kids, Hide Your Wife, Residential Security and Monitoring the Bottom Line. We will cover slide. This is Inception. Okay, no, really, look at the anatomy of a break-in. Look at a very high-level overview of a typical alarm system you'd find in a residence. Talk about the benefits of an alarm system as well as things that suck about it. Also how to make things suck less, which is kind of the point. Who am I? I go by the handle Treefort, obviously not very often, but I'm Treefort because everything I know I learned from Calvin and Hobbes. Okay, like I said, I'm Evan. I started a company called Recursive Squirrel Interactive about 5 years ago, for which I do development and design work. Mostly interactive stuff, a lot of stuff for ad agencies, all that stuff. I would call myself a problem solver. I break things like all of you guys. Let's see. I co-founded a lock sport organization called Fail out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So we get together and we drink and we look at locks. We also attempt to remove obscurity from physical security, and we do that by setting up lockpick villages and cons, something like this. We also get together every once in a while and drink and look at locks. We go hard in the paint. If you don't know what that means, like Google it, and then come find me and tell me. I don't know what it means. I just like saying it. It's kind of cool. We're lockfail.com, so if you guys want more information, it's right there. Any Redditors? Okay, thank God. That like resurfaces and front page every October. That's actually me. If you've seen that, that's me. So keep the face. All right. So why do I care about issues in residential security? That's a great question. Well, I think they're bountiful. Also, it's quite germane to my own skills and interests. I do see it as an extremely widespread issue. I mean, there's a buttload of homes with residential securities out there, residential security systems. But I think that ultimately someone has to set a lofty goal for residential security in order to substantially move things forward. Here's some quick assumptions. This is all the opinion of one guy. You have to say the thing about it not being like a reflection of the opinions of your employer, but I'm my employer, so that doesn't really work. I'm not in any position to profit from anything I say at all. I'm certainly not an expert on the subject at all. I'm really just like a consumer who enjoys thinking critically, and I'd like to share my thoughts with you. I will focus on residential security in my talk. Many, if not most, of these concepts apply over to commercial as well. And no one cares about my assumptions. Let's look at a typical setup for a security system. You got the control board, which is a work of art. Control panel, which is pretty much the user interface into things. You have your array of sensors, which report back. So you got your door contacts and plungers for your windows and doors. Motion sensors, also glass break. And this is a good time for me to mention that if I can't find a good image, I just pick one at random that's funny. Pressure mats in some cases. In the event of an alarm, it has to report to someone, which is usually whoever installed it. So some networking, some communications are required. In a lot of cases, a good old-fashioned landline is used. More often these days, you've got cellular and Ethernet as well. So also, I did stumble across some interesting, a hybrid sort of. It was described to me as a mesh network of pretty much any system that's in place as part of this network that uses almost like a ham radio type communication to each other, and I'm sure it's completely impervious to man-in-the-middle attacks. And ultimately, like a siren or strobe to let you know that crap's popping off. Traits of a typical burglary, real quick. They're twice as likely to occur between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., which is kind of contrary to what some people might think. You might imagine someone breaking in at night, but it's usually when you're at work. Isn't that great? Very likely to enter through the front door a third of the time. And then the back is following that. I guess we're creatures of habit. 61% of all burglaries involved forcible entry. 32.6 were unlawful entries, which is pretty much hey, you can't be in here. Leaving 6.5 being forcible entry attempts when someone failed. That's funny? Okay, the average dollar loss per residential was burglary was $2,163. There's actually a study done in Connecticut, and 41% of alarmed homes that were burglarized had the alarm turned off, which is a big frickin' issue. And remember that, because we're going to talk about that later. Burglars generally spend no more than 1 minute trying to gain entry to your home. Fun fact, many US jurisdictions consider burglary at night to be a much more severe offense.
What is the source of the data?
The source, everything except for the very last point came from the 2009 report by the FBI. So FBI.gov, go to their Unified Crime Reporting Statistics. That last one was actually in a book that I think was published in early 2000s, so it could be completely nonsense at this point, but I tend to believe that, right? 41% of people just didn't turn their alarm on, right? Is that something you could agree with? What are the benefits? I'm not here to completely trash things, because obviously it does some good, so let's talk about it. Financially, there is less property loss due to the ultimately reduced time a burglar will stay in a home that's got a siren blaring, right? So they take less of your crap. And you also pay a bit less in your premiums for homeowners insurance if you have an alarm system. How much exactly? ADT says up to 20%, which pretty much tells me that's never 20%, it's always something less than that. Security benefits, obviously, you're less likely to get Snoop Robbie robbed if you have a security system. Someone did a study a while back, I think it might have been the New York Times, but they put it between 2.8 and 3.5 times more likely to be burgled if you don't have a security system. Also, burgled is one of the most awkward words ever. Occupants are quickly notified that someone has nefariously gained entrance or ingress into your home, which is good because you can start feeding the shotgun or hiding the kids and hiding the wife. Police, fire, and EMT is dispatched quickly in an ideal world, which is good if your stuff's on fire. It gets the neighbors' attention, loud sirens blaring, they start, turning on the front porch, you know what I mean? It's the only time you want your neighbors to come to your house. All right, so other benefits, peace of mind, security theater. Most systems do have modes where, you can set it to chime when the door opens, which is good if you've got young kids or the zombie apocalypse starts and they're coming for you. All these benefits, why am I not happy with it? All right, well, the sucky parts, let's talk about it. The 90s hardware, yeah, the design for these systems pretty much hasn't changed in 20 years. And while I will say vehemently that standing the test of time is ultimately a good thing, I think in this case it comes at the expense of missing opportunities to actually increase security. So I do think that it at the very least needs to be examined. One big thing is it doesn't take advantage of commonly available equipment in the house. It's pretty much like the system, its peripherals, and that's it, right? There's no future proofing whatsoever. So if you're, you have a system installed and your environment changes later, you're pretty much, stuck with what you got. Monitoring is a bad product. Have you guys thought about this any? It's a terrible value. Why is that? Okay, humans essentially are performing a task that could very easily be automated, right? I would assert that your thermostat is smart enough to make the same decisions in terms of dispatching police. I mean, what is it? It's ultimately looking for a set of conditions, and if that set of conditions is met, it dispatches the police. That does not require a human being. And ultimately, these guys on the phone in your monitoring centers, the people who call you, they're probably the least qualified people to make decisions about your current situation, right? They don't know anything about your house. They don't know anything about your status. Are you on vacation? Did you just have a party and there's a bunch of Mylar balloons hanging out, setting the alarm off? Any of that stuff. So the fact that they're dispatching, people to your house and it's costing you money, it could be a big deal. The crap's expensive. I mean, can someone do a per incident, rate? Or maybe, I don't know. But they're subsidizing the cost of the hardware. Yeah, no, don't kid yourself. Have you seen the hardware, right? Yeah, you're mean. Shut up. Okay. We're in a rut. But why is that? I think that ultimately the priority is getting as many customers on the hook for monitoring contracts as possible. And I think, again, that is an awful value. I think since the ultimate goal of the system is to enable someone somewhere else in a call center to make a phone call to you, I think that shapes the design and the goals of the hardware itself. And I think that's it's a bad thing for us, right? Because the focus at that point is not security. It's on, well, it's on the money, right? What's making us money? Call centers, monitoring. So let's make our product justify that. All right. So best case scenario, I guess the best result of monitoring is that the police are dispatched immediately, and they show up 15 minutes after the burglar leaves, and that's good for $40 a month. And you might as well balance an upside-down Coke bottle on the doorknob and get a dog or something. I do think there's room for improvement, obviously, but why do I think that this is a good audience to talk about this? Glad you asked. I think we all tend to be problem solvers in here. Look at the professions. Like, how many sysadmins do we have in here? How many people do any consulting in any kind of security role? Do we have professional jugglers? Dang it. Okay. I do think we embody kind of the ideal collection of skills required to broach this subject. So electronics, software development, physical security. Have you seen next door? Policy, reverse engineering. I did see Joe McRae around here somewhere. That guy. The list goes on and on. So why should we do this? I think that ultimately we have the right motivation, which is a genuine pursuit to increase security in a given system. I think that we are afforded the ability to be infinitely more objective about the goals of a system like this, because we don't have to satisfy a bottom line. So on to the fun stuff. Okay, how can it be improved? And just a disclaimer, this is kind of the result of a good 6 months of me just kind of mulling about this and thinking it over. So some of these things don't make any sense, but they're fun. Hardware. Freaking integrate existing household components such as laptops, desktops, network cameras as an extension of the system. How many of you right now have like a PC or laptop sitting at your house, just open, sitting? Okay, and how many of those have like a microphone or a webcam or accelerometer, any of that stuff? Like, those are very, very good, very useful things, right? And if that could be integrated without much hassle, I think you could do some pretty cool things. For instance, use a webcam to collect video, and ultimately, like, maybe offer different means of detecting motion, right? So, hey, if your alarm starts going off, right, what's your laptop doing? Other than sitting there waiting to get stolen, it's starting to scrape video, right, and send it off someplace to something that's not going to get stolen, Laptops, accelerometers can trigger an alarm when moved. I mean, if someone is in my house and my alarm hasn't gone off yet, they grab the laptop, which they ultimately will. It's a perfectly good means of detecting that something has gone awry. Computer speakers could blast all manner of awfulness. Like, if someone's breaking into my house, it's going to be disco hell for them, and that'd be a good thing. Let's talk about like interfacing with existing popular protocols like Zigbee or Z-Wave, or like Android at Home is coming up. Yeah, I mean, seriously, like, think about this. Like, you've got control over your lights, right, and everything else in your house, and like, think about like the things you can do to make your situation better. Okay, cut off all the lights downstairs, or cut them all on, or flicker them, or whatever. It doesn't seem like it'd be that daunting of a task. Enterprise users can write drivers, essentially, for their own hardware. So you wouldn't be pigeonholed to one particular manufacturer's stuff, what they offer. Humidity sensors, the kilowatt-type devices, flood detectors, good examples of this. A demo. Well, it's not really a demo, but here, just watch it. Like, someone breaks into my house. This is what I want. Right, like, oh, that's a nice laptop. Oh, here I come. I think I'm gonna take it. Oh gosh! All right, so, and obviously that's kind of cheeky, but really, who's being clever about this stuff? Is anyone? I don't know. All right, so user habits. This is another thing that we could vastly improve, right? That statistic, the 41% of people that leave their crap off when they leave, like, that's a big deal. And like, what things are in place right now that would possibly improve that? Like, I can't think of a thing. Okay, so, PEPCAG, the problem exists between keyboard and chair. In this case, it might be like between keypad and car. But what about introducing the gamification to alarm state management? You guys familiar with this term? Someone did a TED talk about this. Basically, it's like assigning some arbitrary value or reward for mundane tasks. Like, you guys would probably brush your teeth for 3 minutes, if you were able to get some kind of if it bodes well for your gamer tag, right? Yeah. So I mean, I know I would. Don't judge me. No, really, I want points. So what if you got achievements for good performance on this stuff? Like, what if you maintain a running security grade based on your habits? That would be interesting. But here's where it kind of gets real. Like, what if you actually got rewarded for having, good, diligent alarm usage, right? So what if you got discounts on new stuff or discounted monitoring? Kind of like how car insurance works, right? You don't get into wrecks, you pay less. So I don't know. So achievement unlocked, hey, your alarm was set for 30 consecutive days, which either means you're like a hermit or a jet setter or something. Hey, your disarm code was entered 200 times without error. Good job, you're a robot. You created 3 custom alarm states. You're clever. You interface 5 computers with the alarm. The list goes on. So what about decentralized monitoring? And monitoring sucked. I don't know if you guys caught that before. Monitoring is a terrible product. Think about it. I don't need you. So this whole concept takes advantage of the fact that everyone's interconnected already to a very, very high level. Basically, I want my security system to allow me to assign an infinite number of people to become my monitors, right? So what does that mean? I would find people that like my neighbor or somebody like that actually knows me, that I'm current with, knows about my house, could easily just, get out of his chair, walk over, and see if something's going bad. And these people would have the ability to impact my security, just turn it off or whatever, or dispatch the police, right? Could implement simple roles and permissions. So let's say I've got a friend that I like him, but he gets drunk a lot or something, and I don't want him to be able to disable my stuff. But I would like to feel important and check in every once in a while. So you could implement roles. So I'd like my system to be able to send me a text or an email or an automated phone call or a freaking Twitter, Rob, lol, send smoke signals or whatever I want to whoever I want, so long as they agree. And basically, hey, if no one responds after a predetermined amount of time, call the police. That's what it does anyways, right? It's really not that hard. Okay. At the very, very, very least, a system would allow users to choose their own monitoring service, for the sake of Pete, because competition, right? Okay, alarm notifications. You've got burglars. When an alarm is triggered, all right, so you get this text or this email, right, and it's got a summary basically of all the sensor activity with respect to time. So you see, 8:09, back door was opened, right? 8:09, 20 seconds later, the back hallway monitor motion detector was triggered. 30 seconds later, someone walked into the kitchen, and so you get a quick view of this stuff. Also, maybe have a link in that text or that email to an incident-specific web page that would be served up by this alarm system, right? Because it's all connected via your broadband connection. So you click on this link, opens this web page, and you got all this information that's updated in real time, right? So you have a scrubbable list of all the changes in your sensor states. So it's basically like an overview of what's going on in your house at that moment. Also, you have output you have access to all of the video and audio that all these devices that are already in your house are collecting, right? And you can correlate this with motion detectors, or hey, when stuff happens, in front of this computer, it sees it, take a picture, that's relevant, you can see someone in your house, right? And chances are, like this is your neighbor or your friend or your casual acquaintance is robbing you anyways. And it has quick links to common actions like dial the cops, turn off the alarm, release the Kraken, release the Kraken. Also, live communication between all the recipients of your alarm notification, right? So I've got 8 people, got this thing, they're looking, right? Maybe they've got some like canned responses like, I think everything's fine, or release the Kraken, or, I'm gonna head over, I'm gonna check it out, But basically you're able to all get a consensus about what's going on. So this is something, maybe what it look like, right? So you got the video feed there, and you hide your kids. So you have the timeline, that's self-explanatory. Okay, so how about for like the authorities that respond to your situation? This information, of course, if you allow them to have it, if you opt in, would be very helpful, right? Because like, what do they know now? Like the alarm went off at this house. So what if they were able to check feedback from the other people who are in your monitoring loop, right? What if they had access to your camera feeds or your sensor information? That'd be really good stuff. Hey, they went in the back door, start there, or start at the front, flush them out. What if homeowners can essentially set like a status for their system that authorities knew they could check out? Like, here's an example. Hey, we're out of town from 6:1 to 6:8. Joe will be coming in, in the evenings to feed the squirrel. Joe's at this number. Joe's he's nerdy, has brown hair, likes the number 6. But that would all be like very helpful information for cops. So what if your alarm system was able to leverage statistics and data as well, all being fed from the internet, of course? What if you could adjust sensitivity based on time and stack that against the regional crime statistics? That might be useful. Certainly seems logical. What if you had the option of sharing your data with other systems in your area? Of course, like completely optional, but it would be useful for identifying trends, right? So, hey, within the past 3 hours, 4 houses have had their back doors, kicked open. So something bad is probably going on. So you'd get precognitive, like Minority Report eventually. Not really. Google called, they need more data. Okay, so custom alarm states. So, give me away, instant or stay, or give me death. So you might have like some different scenarios going on in your house that would require different alarm states. And I think that an ideal system would have that. Ideally, you would be able to set, for each sensor in your entire system, how it affects the overall alarm state, right? And then, just as importantly, be able to set an appropriate response based on what happens and if those conditions are met, right? For example, so if I work in an office, right? So between the hours of 6:30 a.m. and 5 o'clock p.m., if my office motion detector trips, and then within 2 minutes there's a motion in front of my PC, then send me a text and it reminds me to call my wife and tell her to quit touching my PC or something, something like that. This will make it a lot easier for you to have different structures secured, on your premises. Like say you had a barn or something. It wouldn't be like an everything's on or everything's off scenario. It would be like, okay, well the barn's secure, everyone's in the house moving around. So I would like to see more installation options. So right now, what can you do, right? Like you buy a kit from Radio Shack that sucks, and you put it in your house, and it's a trial, right? Or you get like someone like ADT to come in, and they'll install it and everything. Usually for free, sometimes not. Actually, most of the time not if you want like a decent system, but that does come with a 3-year contract for really, really crappy monitoring. But what if, of course, you used existing sensors, right? If you already had an alarm system from the 1800s, you could just drop in this new system. It would use all of your existing stuff because it's all stone simple. Additionally, what if you could use like an array of wireless sensors that you can build into common things around your house? For example, like a light switch or outlet box. What if you just swap those out? Like all of a sudden, like it wouldn't like replace the functionality or remove it, but suddenly your light switch has a motion detector on it. And what if these things were like actually affordable, and you could put a lot of them in your house and increase your coverage? How about this? A motion detector that just screws directly into a light bulb socket, but it doesn't like replace the light. You screw the light bulb on it's like it works in line, essentially. As not to impede the existing functionality. This wouldn't be for everyone, but like I would love to have honeypot mode on my alarm system, right? Like get everything all nice and tight, but like don't set the alarm off, right? So like the police would get a notification that like at this particular address, like there's a thief like locked in my closet, that would be awesome. Of course, that might actually improve your security in the long run. I'm just saying. Ideas? Anyone have any? Anything came to you?
One concern would be if you're monitoring and your neighbor shows up at your place and he actually catches the burglar, he gets hurt, he now owns your house. So
yeah, liability, right.
There's some concerns with liability around this, and when the police show up and your neighbor's in your house carrying the club to find the burglar, the police shoot him, now they both own your house. So it's really...
Your house is safe, so it don't matter. Losing the neighbor and the cop.
The liability and who's got responsibility and who's ultimately in charge of your system.
Definitely. I think that I mean, it's going to come down to common sense. Like, I wouldn't ever tell my neighbor to say, okay, if you see someone in the house, like, charge, go get them.
Same thing can happen no matter who runs the alarm or who responds. There's always that vulnerability. It doesn't matter if it's a custom system or if it's off the shelf. You still have the liability.
As far as the people not arming their own alarm system, and I think it's just a matter of alarm systems haven't been updated in 20 years, like you said, but my car knows when I'm in my car because I have my phone with me and
Right.
it compares. Why shouldn't my alarm system do the same thing?
Sure,
I
yeah.
can leave my phone at home, but how often do I do that compared to 41% of the time people not arming their alarm system?
This is true. It's a very good point.
I mean, I think that you have like a lot of really awesome ideas and really creative ideas, but I don't see, this is just personally, I don't see the demand for this type of technology.
Okay.
People buy this alarm system and they have this sense of that they're being protected, right? And that's all they need, because most of the time, most people don't get burglarized.
This is true.
And when they do, that's when they want to take the next steps. But there's not as much of a market for people that are already burglarized as ones that are afraid to be burglarized, right?
Yeah, I agree. It's like the third toughest sell, like right behind like like a funeral plot and something awful, being caught on fire.
If you wanted to do this, if somebody was serious about this, with products like VSR, X10, Smart Home, using carrier current, most of the devices you were just talking about exist. Devices that screw into a light socket and the bulb goes into it, and it's a sensor, and will send the carrier current signal, and they all have alarm modules that go with it. So if somebody was diligent and they wanted to, it could be done fairly simply.
And if all this stuff wasn't proprietary, I don't know, why can't everyone get along? That's kind of my take on it. Anybody else?
You looked into alarm.com?
Alarm.com?
They're too expensive.
I may have.
They're expensive, yeah.
No.
I think so.
Why didn't I think of alarm.com?
I got a page half an hour ago telling my wife.
So do I, mine's free. So you got a plan for offline mode?
Offline mode.
Offline, so if they cut your internet line, that's bad.
It is, yeah.
So what my system is, I have a camera system that records everything, and then I have, in addition to those, network cameras that do the notifications. So on motion detection, it sends me a message over the internet. But if that fails, worst case, I've still got the hidden recorder that's recording everything no matter what.
Right, right.
So defensive depth.
We're actually just about to get to that. So pipe down. Who's next?
No, I thought you were done.
Oh, no. No, I'm about to reveal the solution.
I just want to know what that guy got texted about from his wife.
I do too.
What was your wife doing? You got
Sir,
Yes.
respond.
Is it sexting?
When she goes out, when she goes back.
I'm just kidding.
Can we get the number?
It just got weird.
When I go out the door,
I hit this and it sets it up before I get in the car.
Yeah, excellent. Good for you.
I'm
You're like the.
I'm an alarm. I'm not statistical.
Good. You would have a high score, achievement rank or something. Okay,
But the system costs $5,000.
Well, there you go. Man, that's crazy. Okay, so how do we do it, right? So I propose Moxercat. Does anyone recognize this image?
It's the internet.
It's the internet. Thank you. You guys. All right. So Moxercat. What is Moxercat? I'm 12 years old, and what is this? Moxercat is a dream. It's mythical alarm system nirvana. This is actually something that I really do want to do. But admittedly, you know, I don't want to give it like the college try. I want to actually get people in place who are, you know, experts in their own professions that are equally as interested in doing this as I am. This would be completely open source hardware, open source software, and it would be essentially a.
Did you go to the talk earlier on exactly the subject?
You mean Norman's?
Access control?
Yes.
Okay.
It wasn't exactly this subject. It was darn close. He did cover it. Yeah, there was a lot of overlap there.
Right.
That was a great talk. Completely open source hardware, open source software, right? There's some other goals to it. Definitely use established open source protocols for communication, so no proprietary nonsense. It would have a robust plug-in software architecture for creating unparalleled hardware compatibility. So this is having the ability to integrate things that you make yourself or things that exist currently, which doesn't happen typically, except for like that, you know, that one like feedback loop that some of the higher end systems have that probably aren't in your homes anyways. It would have scalable hardware I/O, so you would be able to add a lot of sensors. Have stupid simple OS and firmware upgrades, because you know we all know that everyone's really diligent about upgrading their stuff. It would be, you know, configurable over the LAN. Be a, you know, compact, flexible form factor, so you could stick this up, you know, up in a closet somewhere. It would kind of tuck way out of the way. Why open source? Okay, so insert the obligatory, you know, open source discussion here. But really, like ultimately, you know, light hands make, or many hands make light work. I believe that. I think that this would ensure that the growth of the system is actually based on real needs. It wouldn't be like well, you know, what can we do that would make people buy this? Because that's not how I think that we should approach this subject. Because it's not an exercise in marketing. It's an exercise in securing a house, right? All right. So this would also allow for a new marketplace for products and services. So more competition is good. And let's see. Also, of course, trial by fire. So 10, will it get owned? 20, yes, it will, and then we'll fix it. 30, you go to 10. So this is the nature of the beast, and I think that you know how well you handle this is, you know, ultimately determines how successful you'll be. What's next? Okay. We started this conversation. This is the first time I've ever talked about this in front of anyone. So obviously, you know, there's a lot of rough edges and stuff, and there's a lot of unknowns. So hopefully you guys can help fill in some of those gaps. So come find me. So I'd like to gather awesome people and eventually, you know, get to the place where we can map out some core functionality. And need to raise funds to develop the kind of the foundation software and hardware for this thing. And eventually, and this is way down the road, release an SDK and let you know, creativity and momentum, and I can use the word gumption. I'm from the South. Take over. And that's it. Okay, so that's my email address and Twitter. So, any questions?
Have you been robbed?
I have not.
Oh.
Hide your kids. Yeah, I don't doubt that.
Why do you think he's not confessing?
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have cameras.
I got robbed twice.
That sucks.
Yeah, the second time I got it all on camera. But we didn't catch the guy because
Oh.
the cops didn't recognize him.
That also sucks.
So the alerting, the notification phase was very important.
Cool. Yeah, and if you guys have any more questions, yeah, find me. We'll talk. No, I don't. You got my email address, right? Yeah.
I'll shoot you an email. My name's Doug.
Hey.